Hey guys, hey everybody, this is Kyle, this is your boy Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine, aka Vulcan Wolverine 2, I'm both. I hope you guys are doing great today. I hope you're doing great today. You know, I'm not gonna whittle that down. I hope you are doing great. I hope you are staying strong. I hope you are defending this in awesome ways that make your attackers just so angry, and that's what we got to do. Um, I want to start this video. I went ahead and I ordered the CES Ultra device. This is gonna be a home run. This is gonna be a hit out of the park. The science behind it really matches up with what I've researched about. One of the ways in which they do that, which is electromagnetic transcranial stimulation around the head in fields with maybe precise focused microwave or kind of electromagnetic frequencies close to ultrasound. I did ask, I think that ultrasound is an electromagnetic frequency. Somebody in the comments, I forgot his name, but he leaves great, intelligent comments. He was saying that he was talking about it as if it wasn't part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and I was like, isn't ultrasound a part of the electromagnetic spectrum? So I might be wrong on that, but I think it is. I think it is. But basically, it doesn't matter. Our attackers are using, focused frequency in electromagnetic fields around our head, kind of like MRI, to do some transcranial, some electromagnetic transcranial stimulation. So this device, I think, has a lot of promise. I'm really excited about it, and I'm going to try it out. I'll try it out on video. I'll just have some videos just doing that. And I really think that other targeted individuals should start looking to doing this because, it's freak positive electromagnetic transcranial stimulation to stop depression, to stop anxiety, to stop sleeplessness. And those are some of the main frequencies, or the main kind of, the main frequencies that our attackers, they're trying to cause depression with the frequencies they're aiming at us. They're trying to cause anxiety. They're trying to keep you up, Did I say the CES Ultra causes you to be able to sleep? So it fights sleeplessness, and our attackers cause sleeplessness. Oh God, what's it called? I'm doing better, but still, still my brain is being targeted. Gosh, true. Oh, simple terms that we all use all the time. Sleep deprivation. Oh God, wow. Okay, but I'm ordering this. You do have to get you have to pay $20 extra to get one of the doctors that works for these guys. To give you a prescription for it, but it's an easy questionnaire. It's very simple, and you just say that you have anxiety, depression, and sleeplessness, and then there's this little checklist. So it's really easy to get. We're gonna try it out. So let me go ahead and get to that article. I want to go ahead and finish up this article from the Oxford Review. Let me go to the top just. So it's from the London Review of International Law by Gregor Knoll, Weaponizing Neurotechnology, International Humanitarian Law, and Loss of Language. And I feel like it's a really cool article, and this guy is probably he's a little bit smarter than he thinks because he's talking about neuroweapons. He does use some specific examples, but he's not specifically talking about how neuroweapons are used on targeted individuals. He does hint at things like that being able to happen, but it's very interesting because a lot of his theories and stuff, they fit hand in hand with what is happening with us, because neuroweapons have this kind of however they're being used, the same questions are raised. I think that it's the questions that are raised with what's going on with us, like how neuroweapons are affecting us, are the most where it shows itself to be the most dangerous. And if the wrong people are in control of it, it is super harmful, to the human race, to our evolution, to every human being on Earth. This is very dangerous. To just have a certain sector of society controlling, neurotechnology and neuroweapons is so horrific. And the public needs to be aware of it so they can step in, so they can know what's going on, and we can get this technology out into the light. The more knowledge that we have is the general public, the safer we are, because knowledge is power. So knowledge is power about this stuff, how it works, how it's being done to us, and stuff like that. Sometimes it gets to be a little bit too much. I know it's like so complicated, and they can do this in a lot of ways, and everybody has different thoughts on how it's being done. So we just got to get more concrete information. We've got to make it easier on ourselves, and we got to come at it from the right perspective. Okay, well, I'll talk about that more later. I want to get to this article. So the loss of perceptual and cognitive unity, and this would relate to what we're going through a lot. I was thinking of it this morning. I think about it a lot, but I didn't really put it into this terminology. But cognitive unity is a very important point. Something that it's something that these neuroweapons really threaten. For an individual's cognitive unity to be changed, like to be disunified. Because you think about it, like before I knew I was targeted, my thoughts were my own. My thoughts were my own, and I enjoyed things, and I had, the way that I thought, and I didn't really think in words because I was just thinking to myself. And when you have this an audience, basically an audience, but an audience that wants to kill you and wants you to look bad and wants you to feel bad about yourself, which would be our attackers doing the shift work, your thinking changes in a natural way because of this. So you think more like you would in a group of people almost, and a group of people that don't like you. So it creates this negative effect for our cognitive unity. Really disunifies how we think, changes the way we think. It's changed a lot of the ways how I think and relate to stuff, that if I did not have like people remote neural monitoring me, I would think a completely different way. And it's not like I'm scared of them, so I'm not going to think the way that I want to. There are also protocols with remote neural manipulation to make the targeted individual think more in words, so that they can so that your attackers and the automated programs can monitor what you're thinking better. So one example, it's a nerd example, but I still like Star Wars, and I still like Marvel, the Marvel movies and Marvel comics, right? I love those. I'm a nerd. But the way that I thought about those and related to them, when I did not know that I was being remote neural monitored and stuff, it was just fancy free, it's a nerdy way to say it, but it was a lot different. Now I feel a little bit disconnected from those things because I've got a group of people, living in my head, monitoring me and stuff like that. And it's not like, because my attackers know that I love all that stuff, and I'm not I'm ashamed to nerdy stuff or anything like that. But it's a natural, an unnatural. Let me change all those naturals to unnatural. It's like this unnatural change where, it's like you're in a group of people sometimes. Like you're not, because you've got people actually monitoring your inner voice, monitoring visuals, monitoring, biometrics and stuff like that. So it's like you start interacting with things that you interacted differently with when you weren't targeted, because it's like you're in a group of people. And it's this weird thing. It's hard to explain. I'll make some videos about that, and I also wanted to make some videos about the right perspective, because we've got to change our perspective. This stuff is so bizarre. It's like bizarre on top of bizarre on top of bizarre. Well, violent and evil on top of bizarre on top of bizarre on top of bizarre on top of bizarre. So if we don't have the right perspective, we can really drown. We can be like, this is just so crazy. What, I'm being attacked for no reason, and people are calling me mentally ill, and doctors and psychiatrists aren't helping me right now. It gets to be where you can get very overwhelmed with the insanity and the evil of this, and how I didn't know people could be taken like this. I didn't know our whole society could be tricked. Like this when I was a little kid. We've been tricked a lot by a lot of things, not just not just what's happening in targeted individuals, but we've been tricked by a lot of things. So the right perspective in dealing with these things, how we see ourselves, how we see others, how we see beating this, how we see, going about all this, how we should feel about it. Our perspective is so important. There was something else I wanted to say real quick. It'll come back to me later. Yeah, it'll come back to me later. Let's go ahead and let me go ahead and finish this this article right here. It's about neuroweapons in general. He does talk about a lot of this, like hive mind and things like that. I think actually he does hit upon exactly what's happening to us some of the times, but it's just some of the things that he doesn't mean to fit exactly with targeted individuals, they do. Like cognitive unity is a huge thing with us. When you have other people monitoring your brain and then giving you feedback verbally, audibly, it changes the way that you grew up and thought, and your thinking grew and stuff like that, and you thought a certain way, and it just boom, it just shatters all that, and then you've got to think differently. We shouldn't do that too much. Stick to yourself. To thine own self be true, right? But they're just unnatural. There's a y'all know what I'm saying. Like in a natural way, it changes you. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm scared of what they think, what my attackers think. But it's just this natural. It's all the time. People monitoring you. So it's this. You get conditioned to think a certain way, right? And we've got to really push back on that and have the right perspective so that we can find homeostasis within our minds, body, and our souls. Also, okay, what I did want to add yesterday, guys, I said, like, if you're in a point where you're like, okay, I can't make it till tomorrow, I cannot do this for another second, I'm going to lose my mind, or like I'm so hurt that my body's just going to collapse, I said your number one priority is finding defenses and things to make you feel better, to get you up to the level where it's like, okay, I'm being targeted, this is horrible, but it feels like I can bear it, and I can enjoy some things that I once enjoyed, or new things, or whatever. And I always assume this with what I'm saying, but I'm going to stop assuming it and really say it. Before that comes faith and prayer. Like, you've really got to pray, because we've got a wonderful God, our Creator. He's on our side. Like, and I've had these instances of just like kismet with things where God's leading me a certain way, or He's saying, I know this sucks, this is really evil, but you're here for a reason. So before finding some stuff for defense, pray to God in the name of Jesus Christ. If you're another religion, pray to your God, but use your faith and your belief that you will find something, that there will be something to make this better before you start working on it, before you start thinking about what you want to get for defense and stuff like that. And God will put miracles into your life, So I feel like that's, like, I always just assume it, like that's a part of me where it's like that comes first. Without that, I could do nothing. Without my faith in God and prayer and like my family praying for me and God like giving me a push on a lot of things, I couldn't do any of this, So I want to give glory to God there. I always want to give glory to God, but I'm one of those Christians. I know that a lot of Christians are like, probably you don't read enough scripture, you don't you don't say the name of Jesus Christ enough, you don't, but like, I'm a Christian who, I want to show how good Christians can be with my actions. Like, I don't know, for some reason that's what God puts in my heart, but I do need to start saying it more. I said it a lot in the beginning videos, and I get in that state, like this state of motion I'm in, and putting information out and keeping going and trying to, like a lot of targeted, the state of motion that a lot of targeted individuals are in, I'm only in that state of motion and doing anything because of God's power, and our connections to Him. I really want to talk. I want to make some more videos on this. I'm gonna go ahead and start the video, but there's many more things besides mass, frequency, and energy. There are things that connect us to the universe and to God in ways that science will never get to. They will never get to. There's science that humans on this world, even if 2,000 years went by, there are things that they would not understand. like things that are unseen but are still scientific, right? Okay, so the loss of perceptual and cognitive unity. So what would be lost if we were to adopt a neuroweapon system incorporating IHL software along the lines I described above? Would that loss matter? By pressing the remote control, Leaf may alter neuronal states in his brain. So remember, that's the guy from the beginning of the article who had Parkinson's. His body didn't work right, and they actually put I don't know if they put the electrodes inside of his brain. Let's go back up real quick, because I got some time here. I'll just chill out and read it. I'm always like, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm gonna try and stop doing that. This targeting has made me very high strung. I wasn't that high strung before the targeting. Like I was always very chill. This has made me a type A personality. Can you be an artificial type A personality? So Leaf, a 73-year-old farmer from a municipality of Markyard in southern Sweden. So what did he have done to him? On the Monday of that week, the surgical team implanted 2 probes a couple of centimeters long in Leaf's brain and connected them with subcutaneous wiring to a pulse generator in Leaf's chest. Like a pacemaker, the pulse generator is designed to emit small currents, with the important difference that it intervenes in the working of the brain rather than the heart. So it affects the heart from the brain. Just like our remote neural manipulation is done, they will send signals to the brain and the nervous system to make your heart like either beat really fast or feel like it's being squeezed and stuff like that, which I don't deal with a lot anymore. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of like a tightening in my chest, but nowhere near. Before I started to listen to Dave Case's CD, I was grounded. Like it felt like somebody was squeezing my heart and I would fall to the ground. And it just using Dave Case's CD regularly, they can't get that deep entrainment. That's very deep entrainment. It seems like it's almost deep brain stimulation in certain ways. It's the deep brain stimulation part of whatever our attackers are using to do that to affect your heart. But they can do some transcranial, electromagnetic transcranial stimulation on the outside of the brain to affect pain in your nervous system and stuff like that. It's how deep the entrainment is. Deep brain stimulation versus electromagnetic transcranial stimulation. So, and it's not exactly like that, but close enough. It's close enough, guys, in our situation. Okay, so let's go back down so y'all know what Leaf got there in his body. And those, those medical, those good things that are coming out of the medical industry using neuroscience, that's great. And if they did get that way, it's, I just can't. They didn't get there without experiments being done to us, though. What's been done, horrors that have been done, trickle out into the medical community, into good things. And I just wish they would have gotten there in a better way without torturing and destroying people's brains, for decades. 4 decades after World War II. After World War II is when they start, and a lot of people say that a lot of the torture techniques and mind control came from the concentration camps in Germany, and I think that's a big place where a lot of protocols were started off. I really do. We can talk about that more on another video. Let me get to this, because I've got a pretty long way to go through this article. Let me get a sip of Mountain Dew. I'm dried out. I got to do an overhaul of my whole condo. I'm in the process of taking down my Faraday bunker, and then I'm just gonna clean this place up, and because it's just been a mess with this Faraday bunker and stuff like that. I'm gonna clean it up so I can feel a lot better. I can feel like a normal human being, and then find things. I'm gonna find defenses, because now is the time. I bought time with all these things, like a huge hunk of aluminum in my middle room. I can do better. We can do better than that. We can find things so that our social lives won't be hurt, and they can defend us. I know I can do it. I know I can do it with God's help. I know you guys can do it with God's help. I have no doubt in my mind. All of this, I just want to say it real quick, is when, not if. Remember that. Remember that, guys. It's a factual statement. When this program going away, us finding things to make our lives better, it's when, not if. Just the when could, well, the when, hopefully it's not going to be long, the program ending, but it is a win. And we can quicken it with information we're putting out. This is not the timeline for this, and these people, you know, running this program, this experimentation on the globe. It's not set in stone. It's not set in stone. Alright, so, okay, by pressing the remote control, Leaf may alter neuronal states in his brain. He's able to choose between motoric and linguistic ability, and this choice, as well as its trade-offs, are conscious to him. The same holds for users of simple brain-to-computer interfaces, such as neurotechnological binoculars, yet the trade-offs might not be as manifest as in Leaf's case. A BMI that pulls the perception of a group of individuals is different, though. With the growing complexity of neurotechnological systems and their growing integration into distributed situation awareness, the trade-offs are increasingly opaque. There is not one individual human being whose consciousness hosts the experiences of both the advantages and the downsides of a system resting on pooled individuals. So one loss I would like to consider, and you guys, when he was saying the IHF, the International Humanitarian, IHL, International Humanitarian Law, like AI or whatever, in that he was talking about that. Go back and watch the last video, but basically it's a really good idea. It's like taking what a bunch of international humanitarian lawyers think and turning it into an AI software or an AI program that can run like parallel or in conjunction with some of these other AI programs to make sure that they're doing everything morally. I think that is a fantastic idea, and I think that if humanity is smart, because AI is coming, if humanity is smart, it will get some of the most compassionate, moral thinkers. Like, I don't see how this is going to happen with the way that they're doing it now. It's so immoral and satanic, but it could be fixed. They could start writing AI, moral AI, to make sure that these programs don't just do whatever, that they have a humanitarian standard. And I think that it could go that way. Like if these things come out into the light and the public gets a hold of them and says, wait, hold on, we got to put checks and balances within the AI itself and make it moral. You know, it'd just be like teaching, you know, if you're teaching a kid or something like that just to kill, what's he going to do when he grows up? He's probably going to kill people. But if you teach him how to be moral and stuff like that, he has the ability to defend himself, like as a soldier or something like that, but he tempers it with morality. We can do the same thing with AI, right? I don't think that should be a problem. It's not being done right now. The AI is just programmed to kill, and probably that's all it knows. There's other types of AIs, but the one that's being used on us is being programmed to kill. So where was I? So one loss I would like to consider is that of perception and cognition being united in one single human being. Yet everything depends on how we understand perception and cognition and the interplay between them. Did I already read this? I might believe that cognition takes place primarily in the neural system. In that case, neuroweapons will not worry me. Or I might believe that cognition, or at least a certain kind of cognition, is not reducible to the neural system. I will also believe then that consciousness and language play important roles in cognition. And we know that that's true, right? Because John Hall talks about it, and we've all experienced it. If you have remote neural manipulation, there's protocols in remote neural manipulation to make you think more in words. Where before the targeting, we thought more in imagery and visuals and stuff like that, and we didn't need to use words with ourselves. So they use protocols and subliminal V2K and things like that to make us use words when we're thinking so that they can monitor it easier. Now this is, it's a huge, that's how language affects cognition. You think more in language, or do you think more in visuals? It affects how you think. You know, it really makes your thought different, almost slower. you know, almost slower, because if you're thinking things in your own visuals and the way that you've always thought in this unique way that was built for you, and that you you know, interacted with the world and got that way of thinking, then people come in and start changing your thinking and making you think in words. It slows your thinking down, you know. A lot of this targeting dumbs us down. I mean, it's trying to dumb us down. And I mean, in a lot of different ways, but especially with how slow we think, so that they can act, you know, our attackers can be like, oh, we knew what you were going to think, you know, because they can kind of, my attackers will do V2K a little bit before I get my own thought in my head, because it's an electrical signal, you know, that they're reading first. So that's, you know, like it's not even novel anymore, and I think that's where we need to get to. It's a technology to be used, and you know, that's why I get kind of mad when people are like, oh, it's demons or magic or whatever, because that mystifies it. We need to demystify this stuff and put it in a box. Just put it in its little box and learn how to deal with it, because it's just a technology. In the future, people will be like, oh, you know, just like this technology. Let me make a metaphor right here. If somebody in the 1800s like picked up a cell phone like this, they would think it was magic. They would think it's some form of magic, like some people think about this technology. Right? Who was it? Arthur C. Clarke said any technology sufficiently advanced can be considered magic, right? So in a couple of years, this technology is going to be like a cell phone. Like, people are just going to be like, oh, our bodies interact with electromagnetic energy. Okay, you know, hopefully we'll have stopped this program, and we can actually help people to understand this in the public, so they can become more aware of the technology and actually have a hand in making it safer and making our world more moral when it's interacting with this. It's a fool's hope. We got to be hopeful that we can change this, you know. So, okay, where was I? Or I might believe that I will also believe then that consciousness and language play important roles in cognition. In that case, I will find neuroweapons extremely troublesome. They will trouble me because they disrupt the integration of perception and cognition in the human body and place each of them in separate individuals, or even groups of individuals. Now, he's not exactly talking about our attackers hitting us, but it fits. But it definitely fits, because now we are not really... I'm one human being, right? But I'm connected to a group of people. I'm connected to a group of shift workers, and it's going to behaviorally condition me in certain ways. It's going to change my cognition. And we got to fight that and find a homeostasis in our thinking. And it's going to be different from how we were before we were targeted, but it might be better. It might be better. We'll resist and resist and resist and have a homeostasis. And we might be better prepared for some of these technologies coming out in society than other people are. Now, accept them. Am I saying accept them if they're immoral and evil? No, no, no. I'm just saying so we can see what's going on. We'll know a lot better. We're almost ahead of the curve a lot. We're being killed with the curve, but we're ahead of the curve, where the public doesn't know about how electromagnetic energy works and how it interfaces with the body and things like that. And we've got to use that to our advantage, because knowledge is power. We have extra knowledge in society. And I know people have people who are trying to discredit us or really think that we're mentally ill, you know, they take it the whole other way. Oh, you guys just want to be special, blah, blah. But we are actually, because of this happening to us, we have more knowledge than the general public, and we have to warn them about it. We don't have to, but I mean, for our own survival, it's the best way, you know, to let the public be aware, because there's a lot of good people out in the public. You get a lot of, like, we have a lot of great minds in the TI community, but we get even more people who are not being directly targeted, smart people figuring this out, you know, figuring out how to defend, figuring out, you know, exactly how the technology works and everything like that. More brains are better than one, but keep them separate. You know, keep them work in a group with somebody in their intellect and your intellect, but let's not combine brains. You know, let's just not combine brains. It's not good. Not good. It's not good. It's bad. It's bad. All right. Okay. So I will also believe then that consciousness and language play important roles in cognition. In that case, I will find neuroweapons extremely troublesome. They will trouble me because they disrupt the integration of perception and cognition in the human body and place each of them in separate individuals or even groups of individuals. I read this whole thing already. I might find the normative effects of this separation to be unfathomable. And this is the very choice staged by the dialogue between neuroscience and philosophy. An important stream in neuroscientific research is based on what critics have identified as a degenerate form of Cartesianism. In this stream, predicates formerly ascribed to the mind are now ascribed to the brain. These scientists, Bennett and Hacker, state, proceeded to explain human perceptual and cognitive capacities and their exercise by reference to the brain's exercise of its cognitive and perceptual capacities. I have no idea what that means. While I cannot say exactly how dominant this stream is within neuroscience, I have noted reverberations of degenerate neuroscientific Cartesianism in the recently established field of neuroscience and the law. I have quoted Henry Greeley's text to illustrate the language resulting from it. What I should be doing here is I should be going up and looking up Cartesianism and stuff like that to read the article properly, but it's so long. I just want to get through it and kind of we can all, maybe some of you guys know what he's talking about, but there are a lot of parts that are simple. They're more simply put and we can understand. Seems like a lot of complicated, it's like philosophy mixed with legal jargon. If I struggle to understand what it means when humans perceive or think, a reduction of that meaning to observable neuronal signals would intuitively seem to be a promising strategy. So degenerate Cartesianism situating human perceptual, and did I just read this? No, okay. So degenerate, wow. Okay, so degenerate Cartesianism situating human perceptual and cognitive capacities in the brain rather than in the mind should enjoy some appeal amongst all those interested in cutting corners. If my problem is to make Leaf walk again, the question of whether his enhanced motoric capacity is bought at the price of Cartesian degeneration might appear secondary to me. So would the question who is walking Leaf? Leaf himself, his pulse generator, or both? And I would say both. I would say both because Leaf has, that's where the problem comes in. So Leaf can he can control, the whatever was put into his brain connect to his heart. He can control it to make himself feel better, or he doesn't have to push that button. The problem is with any kind of technology that can be put into the human body, somebody can access that technology. So it becomes not just, okay, are you controlling that technology yourself inside of you like a robotic arm? Are you controlling it? Because anybody can take control of it by remote means. So that question has to really come into play there. Even if it looks like somebody is just like, oh, well, you got an implant in you, and it does this, and it's inside of you, so it's yours, and you just use it, it's good for you. Like not an implant like a non-consensual surgical implant, but an implant like Leaf had. There's always going to be the question of who could hack into that and start to control that. So there's always going to be that question, no matter what it is in this society. And properly considered, a degenerate Cartesian does not lose perceptual and cognitive unity with the introduction of neurotechnology. If the mind is the brain, a BMI will actually provide a closer relation between perception and decision. Binoculars equipped with a BMI help a human to focus better on and understand better what he or she is perceiving as a target, without being distracted by other processes in consciousness competing for attention. So the degenerate Cartesian might hold that neurotechnologically enhanced perception creates a greater degree of perceptual and cognitive unity. He's using too many big words for me. If the brain's neuronal signals are man's perception and cognition, a person linked to a BMI will be fully human and not a golem figure. If the brain's neuronal signals are the key to perception and cognition, neuroweapons are compatible with IHL. If the brain's neuronal signals are the key to perception and cognition, neuroweapons are compatible with IHL. To be perceived as working in an uncomplicated way, neurotechnology presupposes a reduction to a particular form of biologism, or rather the sequence needs to be reversed. A particular form of biologism enables the functioning of neurotechnology. If one subscribes to it, nothing is lost with the introduction of neuroweapons with IHL software. I will get to this shortly. So he's trying to make a case for, would there be anything lost if you mixed in international humanitarian law software, like from the minds of actually the people who know international humanitarian law best, and then made like an artificial program to run in conjunction with other artificial programs? Would anything be lost? And like the easy answer to that, being a targeted individual, is no. Anything that's lost is gonna safeguard hell on earth, is gonna safeguard the most hellish rapes ever, because AI is being completely misused and neuroweapons are being completely misused on a global scale that it just, would make Mao Zedong blush, Okay, so, but what, for that matter, of proper Cartesianism that does not ascribe the mind's predicates to the brain? I'm starting to not like this article. I should have read it before, but it was so long. Or for that matter, other ways of conceiving the relationship between mind and body that do not reduce mental processes to biology. Embodied cognitive science has recently experienced a marked upsurge, and it rests on the assumption that the body is not peripheral to cognition. This is Robert A. Wilson and Lucia Foglia's formulation of the so-called embodiment thesis. Many features of cognition are embodied in that they are deeply dependent upon characteristics of the physical body of the agent, such that the agents beyond the brain body plays a significant causal role or a physically constitutive role in that agent's cognitive processing. I don't understand any of that. Guess I'll have to read it again or something. Probably won't read it again. Okay, here's a stream of cognitive science that should have normative problems with neuroweapons featuring IHL software. If it were the case that IHL was written for individuals whose perception and cognition are embodied in one and the same body, we may not assume that it will yield the same normative outcomes when perception is vested in one human body and cognition in another. I don't know what he's talking about. Having mapped the field of embodied cognition, Wilson and Foglia make out three varieties of the embodiment thesis. The body as constraint thesis casts the body as a constraint upon the nature and content of representations processed by an agent's cognitive system. I'm going to move forward in this article, so you'll kind of get the idea about, he's saying it in much too complicated ways. Unity of cognitive abilities and unity of perception. It's making it sound really complicated. Okay, so the loss of language. Let's see his main points, this article. Let me then ask the same question once more. What would be lost if we were to adopt a neuroweapon system incorporating IHL software along the lines I have described above? The use of a neuroweapon system incorporating IHL software would constitute a reduction. The legal knowledge of the IHL experts would be reduced to a set of skills regarding a particular procedure to be followed in decision-making and a range of outcomes. As these skills and this range of outcomes are taken as a baseline for programming, they are uncoupled from processes of verbalization, discussion with peers, and other forms of knowledge production. The complexity of a mind expressing itself through human language and minds communicating with each other are reduced to neuronal and synaptic processes, which are scripted in a particular technical language. I kind of get that. In this reduction, human experts provide themselves as raw material for armament production. Provide themselves as raw. So he's, this is captured well in Martin Heidegger's reflection on what sets modern technology apart from the technology of pre-industrial farming or craftsmanship. In his 1953 text on the question concerning technology, Heidegger suggests that it is the river which is built into the hydroelectric power station rather than the power station being built into the river. He captures this relationship as one of challenging Herausforderung, also translatable into asking to give up something or into provocation. The decisive difference between a pre-industrial windmill and a power station is that only the latter is designed to store energy, whereas the former is at the mercy of the weather. A power station provokes the river to offer up its energy, to then secure it in a system of storage that makes it steerable at will. In all this, man is no longer at the mercy of the weather. For Heidegger, these are the main traits of contemporary industrial technology: to challenge or provoke, Herausfordern, that which nature holds. To challenge or provoke that which nature holds, with the purpose to steer and secure the energy derived from it at will. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, seeing the world around you as, making it better, it making you better, but not destroying it. Everything life-affirming, but, like water, if you're getting power from water, you're not drying up the oceans. The water still exists. Kind of like a business deal, right? Or a good business deal is when everybody wins, right? You get money. If you're selling something, the customer gets a good product. I think that's how everything should be run in the world. Like, everybody should there should be, trade-offs, compromise, blah, blah. But it should be, nobody should get this huge one-up. Like, the top of the pyramid, they're getting all this control and they're going to kill people and we have no choice. People who live on the world, and even with nature, there has to be a compromise where, and it's easy to help everybody win, and then just all deal with, whatever natural bads life throws at you, like disease or death or anything like that. Then life's not a tragedy and everybody's working as hard as they can against the natural bad stuff in the world. I guess that's a simplified way to think about transactions in nature and transactions in humanity. If you give to somebody and they give to you, and then you give back, and it's this cycle of positivity, right? We have this way, and I don't even know if that's what he was talking. I have no idea if he's talking about what I'm saying right now. I'm not understanding a lot of this, but it's like if you give to somebody, they give back to you, and then it just keeps building like in a cycle. Then everybody gets built up. Everybody becomes better. Like when you take from somebody, they have less, you have more, but it destroys them, and it creates evil, creates imbalance, within humanity. The same three traits apply to the hypothetical IHL software I described above. The single IHL assumes a role analogous to the single windmill, but the software accumulates the knowledge of the whole group of experts for steady use. These experts are provoked by combat simulations to impart something that can be stored, steered, and secured. So he for the whole end of this, he's talking about that hypothetical IHL software. I thought he would be more talking about theory of neuroweapons and examples of neuroweapons. He just keeps on this topic of this IHL software, which, while being a good idea, he needs to move on in the article. I'm not even judging the article. He's like a real smart guy. He talks with a lot of big words. But let's move on. It's not what I thought it was going to be at the end. Neither of these changes take place without the involvement of humans. It is actually decisive for modern technology to address human beings so that they adopt a challenging or provocative mode of revealing the world. The essence of technology is, as Heidegger emphasizes, nothing technical. If we accept this, we may also... What? If we accept this, sometimes... Look, I'm just going to say it, alright? Sometimes people are too smart. Like, they're too smart and they end up getting spun around their own spool. And that's what I see in this article. This guy is really intelligent, but then he's just like going in these mind loops and, not really getting a good point across. Y'all tell me if y'all think differently. I'm going to read a little bit more of this article, and it's definitely important because it's, talking about concrete neurotechnology and neurotechnology turned into neuroweapons. But I don't know, his concluding part of it, it seems to just go off into like about this IHF or IHL software. But y'all read it. Y'all come here. I'll read a little bit more of it. Maybe I just have a headache today. Maybe I'm just really foggy today because I'm not seeing these points that he's making. Okay, the essence of technology is, as Heidegger emphasizes, nothing technical. Like that, what? If we accept this, we may also accept that modern technology made the advent of modern science in the 17th century possible. In this understanding, modern technology as a form of challenging and provoking emerged ontologically and historically prior to the 18th century breakthrough of engineering. The human being is no outsider to this form of revealing. On the contrary, she assumes a central role, walking the path designated by it, being challenged by it in a way prior to, and more original than the coal, the water, or the wind, in revealing herself in the process. For more than 3 centuries, the technological mode of revealing has grown from a rather particular metaphysical choice into ubiquitous technological presence. The advent of neuroweapons is perhaps its most conspicuous example so far, but the way it intervenes into the very process of human perception and cognition differs, in degree but not in kind. That's pretty good. Okay. The growth of modern science into an unquestionable and naturalized paradigm yields a kind of enchantment. This I felt together with fellow patients when we saw a leaf walk unaided. This was sensed by my audiences, anxious about yet trustful in the metaphysical groundedness of science. In its light or dark form, it remains a dangerous sentiment. This was sensed by my audience, anxious about yet trustful in the metaphysical groundedness of science. And we need to not trust. It's not about trusting the metaphysical groundedness of science. It's not about trusting science or trusting technology. It's the people behind the technology. Let me say that, because I don't know, does he understand that? I'm not sure. I guess he does, but technology is a tool. It is a tool. It's not about trusting or mistrusting technology. All of this, it's a lot about technology because that's what's hurting us. The neuroweapons are hurting us. The problem is people. The problem is these evil people and spiritual wickedness, right? Spiritual wickedness in these people, but the problem is evil people, not evil technology. Technology cannot be evil. Like, all this stuff that they're developing now could be done in a moral way. It could all be done in a moral way, and it would take a little bit longer. It would maybe take like 20 years more. Then they're getting a few years, by murdering a bunch of innocent people. So it could all be done morally. It would be a little bit slower, but we would keep our souls. I've kept my soul. I know you guys who are targeted individuals, you've kept your soul. These people who are doing this, like even my attackers, I don't think they planned on murdering a bunch of people in their life or torturing people in their life. It was just a job that cropped up. They were ex-military, and they said, okay, this is what our country's doing now with these contractors. And they become these awful murderers. I'm not actually sure. They may have been born psychopaths. But the problem is people. It's not the technology. All this stuff could be done in a moral way. They could get moral people to use this equipment. The profile could be, you have to be very moral if you're going to use this. You can only use it on like terrorists or criminals that are committing crimes, to stop crime and stuff like that. If they would have done that, and then you could collect data from, maybe, like I was saying yesterday, I don't know, it kind of sounds bad, but people with like terminal illnesses or older people who want to give something back to their world, right? Like say my grandma was like 80 or 90 years old, and she was like, well, I want to do something for the world. And they were like, well, we can use this technology on you. We're not sure about it. It could cause damage, but it will really help us to have medical advancements and make the world better. And she'd be like, well, yeah, it sounds good. I'd like to do that at the end of my life. I don't know. That gets complicated, and I would never let my grandma do that if I had any say about it. She might already be being hit by this non-consensual stuff, though. But you know what I mean. It could be done in a moral way. If we had moral leaders in the world, if our military-industrial complexes were not completely steeped in Satanism, and the people above them completely steeped in thinking they're gods or whatever, and it was the leaders understood the people and lived with the people and knew that it was important for the human race as a whole to move forward. I mean, this could be done morally. It could be done morally. It'd just take more time. That's it. And Dr. James Giordano says the same thing. He's like, when you take shortcuts, people get hurt. They're trying to take shortcuts, and then they start doing immoral stuff. And then this happens. All this experimentation since World War II. Before World War II, people were experimenting on each other, throughout time, right? Throughout the beginning of mankind. Okay, so the growth of modern science into an unquestionable and naturalized paradigm. Yet the perception of things as ordered by the apparatus of neuroweapons is not as such more or less natural than any other ordering of perception. It is here that Heidegger takes us further than analytical philosophers criticizing degenerate forms of Cartesianism. Now, see, that's wrong. Neuroweapons are a whole lot less natural than any other ordering of perception, because we've had this perception. Human beings have lived in their own body and had their own brains. We've had that for, how long have human beings been around? I think I misspoke. What is it? Human beings have been around for like millions of years, or only hundreds of thousands? Like, we've been around for millions. Like say our ancestors, like the we've been around for a long time. We've been around for a long time, and we all think a certain way. We're in our individual body. We all think differently. We're in our own heads, in our own body. And they're just going to come in and say, boom, okay, now we can look into people's heads and we're going to change all this. You know what that does to something that's been done for, millions of years? Have we only been around for hundreds of thousands of years? I guess some people argue about that. I'm going to say millions. I'm going to say millions, yeah. See, this is stuff that's like you forget when you're being targeted, and it's like simple grade school stuff that kind of just washes out of your head. But anyway, so it's a huge paradigm shift, and it's a really, really different ordering of perception with what we're going through. Maybe he's thinking of something different that neuroweapons create. I don't think so. It is here that Heidegger takes us further than analytical philosophers criticizing degenerate forms of Cartesianism, or cognitive scientists subscribing to the embodiment thesis would do. He does so because his account for technology is part of a fundamental critique of any form of Cartesianism. I don't even know what Cartesianism is. Okay, let's go down. You guys can come read this, in a more, it's a good article. At the beginning, it's a good article. He makes a lot of good points. I just feel like he's getting into a lot of philosophy, and then this hypothetical IHL software, and that he focuses on the topic of philosophy in the IHL software and not some kind of hard-hitting examples of neurotechnology being turned into neuroweapons and things like that. It's a very philosophical article. And I would expect, and he's a smart guy, but I would expect like a lawyer to be a little bit more grounded here. What's it going to do to people? What's it going to do to their minds? It's not this Cartesian blah blah. Maybe I'm not reading it right. So you guys go and check it out. Yeah, Descartes and Cartesian way. Just a little bit too much for me right now, so I'll show y'all the article. I'll read some of it, and y'all can go check it out. Here's the famous Heidegger quote in which he exemplifies the being revealed by readiness at hand through the example of a hammer. The less we just stare at the hammer thing, and the more we seize hold of it and use it, the more primordial does our relationship to it become, and the more unveiledly it encountered as to which it is, as equipment. The hammering itself uncovers the specific manipulability of the hammer. The hammering itself uncovers the specific manipulability of the hammer, the kind of being which equipment possesses and which it manifests itself in its own right. We call readiness to hand. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Okay, so let's read this a little bit. As I noted earlier, we relate to anything in the world as equipment. So there is no particular class of things that are equipment in the more traditional sense of tools. Once we keep this in mind, it becomes clear that the revelation of what a thing is hinges on our preparedness to immerse ourselves into using it, that is, into its readiness at hand. Only then can we reveal that which is concealed in them, denoted by Heidegger from the Greek term lethe, and let it come forward as truth, aletheia, the Greek term for truth, or that which is no longer concealed. That's a really good point, and I think it's a point that kind of flows into when I say we need to demystify this. For the other side, they've used this hammer too soon, and don't know what to do with it. Don't know how. They're just trying to find out what the hammer can do. We'll lop off. We'll kill this family and we'll torture him all day, and just getting data from it, really. But the more that we can learn about it and not just look at it and maybe affect it. Like one of the things that's made me a lot more confident in this about defenses and being able to protect myself and change coming, even if the program doesn't. I hope the program ends before a couple of years, but I'm seeing we got to go. It's going to be a process. But for defense-wise, because I've actually used defenses and they work, so it demystifies all this. If we look at this and we're being attacked by full frontal attack and you're not defending or anything, it's going to be this, hyper advanced. This is so advanced and nothing can be done. You're going to get more and more like that. So that's all I can think of. Relating it to what we're going through from that. The more that you work with something, even though I can't use these weapons, right, and I don't want to use them ever. I want them to be in the right hands and everything to be, I want it destroyed actually, but I don't think I'm going to get that. I want all this technology destroyed, like disintegrated, and then we can start over with it. But I'm not going to get that. So affecting it and interacting with it to buffer it down, it makes it more of like, okay, I see the utility, I see what they're trying to do with this thing. It gives me more knowledge about what it's used for, right? When you interact, you change what's happening. I guess I didn't need to go into a comparison of that to what's going on with us, but. Okay, so let's read it. What difference does this all make to neuroweapons? I now understand that the neuroscience going into neuroweapon systems is Cartesian, I don't know what that means, in that it isolates neural signals in the human brains as completely decontextualized objects. These neural signals, he's talking about neuroweapons in a philosophical way. Like when it isolates the neural signals in the human brains, does it completely detextualize them as object? Y'all can come read this. So let's read it. Okay, so neurotechnology in weapon systems participates in a particular normativity that is founded on the particular Cartesian ontology. Its workings are very likely to be unconscious to those engaged in the development of these weapon systems and technologies, and indeed to many of those criticizing them. I have set out with the question, what would be lost with the introduction of neuroweapons, and I have arrived at an answer that focuses upon what is added when using these weapons and why it matters. This addition comes at the price of loss. It is the loss of language. Language is lost because neuroweapons shift the focus from a conversation amongst combatants on the existence and legitimacy of a target, or indeed even an inner dialogue on these matters within one combatant, to an exchange of neural signals and its interpretation by a machine. Yeah, he's right about that. Of course, in developing that machine, humans speak and use language in an exchange on its future uses. The latter use of language is clinically separated from the context of the battlefield experience. Why would the reduced role for spoken language affect the application of IHL, International Humanitarian Law? Applying IHL on the battlefield is to make judgments, distinguishing civilians. Oh man, he was talking not about that IHL software. I'm sorry guys. He was talking about just international humanitarian law in general most of the time. He made that one thing, and then he was talking about introduction of international humanitarian law with the use of neuroweapons, not that specific software. I was wrong about that. That makes a lot more sense. Wow. Okay. Why would the reduced role for spoken language affect the application of IHL? Applying IHL on the battlefield is to make judgments, distinguishing civilians from combatants, determining when a combatant is hors de combat, or making a proportionality judgment in targeting. The rules set out to be justified in language ex post. Historically, with the advent of international criminal law, we have probably never verbalized the laws of war as much as now. To the extent that applied, IHL cannot be expressed in the script of computer programs. It would be doomed to trail the normative primacy of neuroscientific modes of warfare. It is no coincidence that militaries arrange for a standing conversation on IHL between a legal advisor or judge advocate general and the commander, because it is impossible to express the two cardinal principles of distinction and proportionality as a script. Contemporary IHL is critically dependent on language as a carrier of judgment. The more neuroweapons are used, the less IHL will be applied in conflict. That can't happen. They need to use international humanitarian law. About the use of the weapons, how the weapons work, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if language is lost when you're using like a neurotechnology, and it's used. It has nothing to do with the morality of using the weapon. I don't see where he's saying that language is lost, because you're talking about these as weapons. What they are doing to the brain is actually weaponized. So you can talk about it outside of the ability of the neuroweapons. You can talk about it as a weapon outside, because when you're using neuroweapons, it's going to be conversations between neurons, right? Or signals between neurons and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean you can't step outside of that and say, oh, that's doing damage to the body, or that's doing this or that. I don't understand his point. I don't see how he made it so complicated. Maybe he was supposed to make it really complicated. Maybe that was his job, to make it super complicated, so that people would look at neuroweapons and go, wow, this guy, law and neuro is so complicated. We don't even want to, if I would have known that, I would have, I probably would have still read the article. Because it is something about neuroweapons. It's actually, speaking about international humanitarian law. Okay, I think that's going to be it, guys. It's been an hour. I don't want to make this, well, let's read some of this. Okay. Are operators of weapon systems which draw on neuroscience or their commanders capable of applying IHL? Only at the absurd price of a decision review system that would be so fundamental as to let a conscious human follow and judge each algorithmic step. This would obviously eradicate the temporal advantages neuroweapons create in the first place. Why is it unlikely that any more substantive decision review system will be put in place? Because it would undermine trust in the tenability of the metaphysical assumptions upon which neuroweapons rest. That makes no sense. That sentence literally makes no sense. Because it would undermine the trust in the tenability of the metaphysical assumptions upon which neuroweapons rest. A technology, why would you have metaphysical assumptions about a technology? I don't understand that. Okay, neuroscience appears to guarantee that neuroweapons rest on the most objective form of human cognition. This is an enormous normative asset for the defense of such weapons against skeptics. The process of targeting with neuroweapons will be cast as less subjective, less judgmental, and less biased than conventional targeting. It's very objective, and it hurts a lot, and it's not subjective at all. And it's like when you damage somebody, the brain, if you're shooting somebody in the leg, or you're shooting microwaves into their head, and the things you're using to use neuroweapons damage the brain, damage the body, damage cognitive unity, damage thinking, change things in a non-consensual human experiment, like what's being done with us, it's completely objectively horrifying. He's saying that it's targeting would be different with this stuff, because it's you're not really being targeted or something. I don't know about this article, guys. It started out really good, but this is just I don't know what kind of conclusions. It's just This is an enormous normative asset for the defense of such weapons as against skeptics. The process of targeting with neuroweapons will cast as less subjective, less judgmental, and less biased than conventional targeting. Very likely a discourse will unfold that makes the metaphysical choice at the beginning, at the beginning of technological thought and weapons development disappear. Metaphysical choice at the beginning of technological thought and weapons development. Science will be cast as most immediately related to nature, and neuroscience will be cast as most immediately related to the essence of the human. The normativity derived from these moves will function as contemporary natural law arguments, irrefutable unless one is prepared to jettison wider belief systems. With such metaphysics of neuroscience, the disintegration of embodied cognition and its distribution across groups of individuals and machines will be perceived as less problematic, and so will the demise of human language in targeting processes. Let's see, maybe he'll say something cool here. Yet the most vexing aspect of neuroweapons is that they render the positions of the operator and her superior so fluid. The human being integrated into neuroweapons is merely a supplier of neurological and synaptic signals, and thus no operator at all. The superior supervising the deployment of neuroweapon might seem to be its true operator. That's what I would think. Yeah, duh. The person who has deployed it, the person who made it, the person who's using it. Because it is only in her that an embodied cognition of the battlefield situation is possible. So would this not require the addition of yet another level in decision taking? That of a true superior who is able to review the first assessment of the foe superior, who is in reality only an operator. This dude. Okay, so let's see. You guys come and check out the article. I'm getting a little agitated because it's just he's using a lot of confusing language and metaphysical thought about something that seems very grounded, and he could talk about the law and stuff like that, and he's trying to bring Descartes in and Cartesian whatever, and I don't know, it seems purposely confusing to me. You guys, if anybody can read this and give me just a layman's term summary, I'd be very grateful for it in the comments, but this guy his writing is a mess. I mean, he's like a lawyer. He's London Review. I just think sometimes people get a little bit too smart for their own good, right? Use a bunch of big words so nobody understands it. Is that on purpose, or are they just being too smart? You know, are they just using too many big words? It reminds me of my philosophy textbook in college first year, and it was just like, it was fun because it was an exercise in thinking. But with this kind of information, I don't want to have exercises in thinking. I want to have concrete evidence and what's going on and what we can do, and like people bringing it out and talking about it very straightforward so people can understand it. That's I don't know. Yeah, it was a pretty good article at the beginning. So sample neuroscience. These are footnotes right here, and he had some good information in the footnotes. Hold on one second, guys. I'll go ahead and wrap it up because I've been I've been doing about an hour reading this article. I hope y'all got something out of it. You might get something. You might get more out of the first video I made on this. Just a lot of philosophical language. It just doesn't need. You don't need to go all philosophical for these kind of problems. You put law and logic together. I mean, philosophy's fun. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Okay, so the lack of knowledge on the dual-use potential of scientific research has been noted with concern by the Newfield Council of Bioethics, which recommended that as part of their ethical training, those studying for a higher degree in neuroscience should be alerted to the possible dual-use implications of neurotechnologies. So a lot of people, probably take a lot of those people at MIT that Alison Ireland set up that Dr. Robert Duncan's virtual presentation there. Probably a lot of them, they think about this stuff, and they think about interacting with the brain, right? And they think about, like, a science mind, like a true scientist isn't violent. He's not thinking about how to kill people. He's thinking about advancement. So that's what happens to these scientists. They create these inventions and stuff, or they think about this stuff, and it's all the wonderful stuff, right? It's all the wonderful stuff. Because I thought about this stuff before I was targeted. I was like, oh man, we'll be able to share thought, like in Demolition Man. Was it in Demolition Man where it's like Sandra Bullock and him are connected? You can have like interactions with your loved ones through your mind. You think of all the positive things about it, and you rarely think about the dual use. Dual use was slammed onto me. I was targeted, and I saw how evil this could be, and how controlling it can be, and how rapey is the only word, like horribly rapey. But a lot of people, a lot of very, very intelligent young inventors and young scientists, they have no clue. They have no clue that such evil would even, that someone would even try and do such evil with such advanced technology. It's like a conditioning in our society where we're like, no way, in advanced technology, there's no way they're going to start killing people with it, right? So that's fine. There are some other good footnotes before I closed out. Okay, so let's read this one about DARPA. DARPA plans to direct funds of USD 50 million for its 2014 projects under the President's Brain Initiative. DARPA plans to explore two key areas to elicit further understanding of the brain. New tools are needed to measure and analyze electrical signals and the biomolecular dynamics underpinning brain function. Researchers will also explore, abstract, and model the vast spectrum of brain functions by examining its incredible complexity. And we are part of that. Like, some of this money went to DARPA for new procedures and new protocols and stuff, but more money was given to, I guarantee you, more money was given to the Department of Defense in these experiments in trauma and torture programs to get data about the brain, about how people act when they're put in this situation, mapping the mind and things like that. The Brain Initiative gave more money to these programs that we are being tortured by. It's just a fact. Just a fact. Let's see there. I think there was one more really good one. Okay, the Newfield Council on Bioethics 2013 takes a different position. I'm not sure what the initial position was. Its 2013 report on novel neurotechnologies intervening in the brain focuses primarily on the therapeutic applications of neurotechnology. A number of military applications enhancing the effectiveness of combatants are listed at 184 through 85. Distinct from other military and civilian uses, the report contains no ethical and regulatory considerations on military applications for the direct injury or degradation of enemy combatants. Yeah, because when they talk about this stuff, even at bioethics committees and stuff like that, they stay away from that. It's national security that they think they have to torture innocent civilians like me, my family, and you guys watching this video, other targeted individuals out there. They're obviously going to hide it. They're going to say, oh, look how convenient this is. Google's going to come out with, oh, well, you can just, by what you're thinking, you can actually type out where it's going to be all the convenient stuff, throwing it up front. Kind of like a narcissist, how they love bomb you and stuff, right? Love bomb, awesome, convenient. Boom, 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 boom. All the bad stuff. Because they're getting the money. People are interested in the convenient stuff that's going to come out of it. They're comfortable, maybe investing in it. They're on board, and then they take that money and use it to do all this dark experimentation and awful satanic things that they're doing to us, to all targeted individuals in the world. So let's finish that out. Its authors consider such applications still to be too speculative to warrant further attention. BS. We are living examples of how it's not speculative at all. In the light of research published since the publication of the Council's report, I list below, I respectfully disagree. Alright. Considering that the development of military neuro devices beyond the proof of concept stage will take place in secrecy. Yes, he's right. I argue that we are compelled to accept a measure of speculation in discussing the consequences such devices might have on the application of the law. Right on. I like a lot of what he said. At the end of the article, it got too philosophical for me, and I just couldn't understand what I was reading. So if I can't understand what I'm reading, it's pointless for me to keep reading it, you know. But you guys definitely go and check it out. I'm a little bit scatterbrained this morning. Yesterday I was feeling a little bit better. You know, when your thinking gets fuzzy, you're reading stuff, and it's just like, you know. But he makes some good points. He makes some good points in the article. I don't even know if that's his footnote. I think it is. I think it's a footnote about the Newfield Council on Bioethics, and it's the author's thinking about it. This footnote number 15, silent communication. So he's talking about that silent communication between soldiers. So Pei, Hill, and Schalk used electrocorticographic signals. Electrocorticographic signals. Tracking these signals requires neurosurgical implantation. So they're saying that electrocorticographic signals, but not if they're using certain electromagnetic frequencies. For practical military uses, a system building on a non-invasive method such as electroencephalography would need to be developed. The authors say as much in their conclusion. It is being developed. It's being developed on targeted individuals. It has been developed already. Has been developed. Let's not read that one. I find it incongruous to use the term operators for the human beings who offer up their neural signals to this particular BCI. Article 48 of the Protocol additional to the Geneva Conventions of the 12th of August 1949 and relating to the protection of victims of international armed conflicts, 8 June 1977, it is widely held that this norm is part of customary IHL. Rule 1 of Heinkart's and Doswell-Beck's study on customary IHL corresponds to the content of our Article 48 API. So I guess they're talking about certain articles in the Geneva Convention. This one was interesting. I kind of read the footnotes before I started reading the article. I guess this will be kind of what we wrap it up on, I think. The concept of weapon systems seems to be sufficiently broad to mandate considerations of the impact new technologies have on state obligations under IHL and armament development. The U.S. DoD Law of War Working Group has proposed standard definitions pursuant to which the term weapons refers to all arms, munitions, material, instruments, mechanisms, or devices that have an intended effect of injuring, damaging, destroying, or disabling personnel or property. Right, so that's why I call these integrated weapon systems, because they are hurting us, can destroy our property. This is a weapon. You know, the neuro weapons, directed energy weapon systems, they're weapons. We are being hit with weapons. And the term weapon system refers to the weapon itself and those components required for its operation, including new, advanced, or emerging technologies which may lead to development of weapons or weapon systems and which have significant legal and policy implications. Weapon systems are limited to those components or technologies having direct injury or damaging effect on people or property, including all munitions and technologies such as projectiles, small arms, mines, explosives, and all other devices and technologies that are physically destructive or injury producing. Let's read this. IHL, so international humanitarian law writers generally tend to suggest that civilian loss and military advantage are incommensurable. That said, they maintain their faith in the usefulness of proportionality reasoning in IHL nonetheless. Okay, well, let's read this definition of transhumanism by Nick Bostrom, and then I'll go ahead and close it out, guys. This is from Nick Bostrom, the Transhumanist FAQ version 2.1, World Transhumanist Association 2003. There's associations for transhumanism, guys, so it's like some dangerous cult-like thinking. Nick Bostrom has defined transhumanism as follows: the intellectual and cultural movement that affirms the possibility and desirability of fundamentally improving the human condition through applied reason, especially by developing and making widely available technologies to eliminate aging and to greatly enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capabilities. I don't think that's what transhumanism means. I guess maybe to him. Number 2, the study of ramifications, promises, and potential dangers of technologies that will enable us to overcome fundamental human limitations, and the related study of ethical matters involved in developing and using such technologies. I mean, that's a very politically correct definition, but from what I've seen, the people who are talking about transhumanism, it's about interconnecting man and machine, you know, because they even talk about a transhumanist singularity event, basically. Alright, guys, that's going to be it for me today. That article started to get way too philosophical, but I hope you guys got something out of it, and I'll go ahead and put the link. I'll put the link for the article in this, in the description for this video, and I'll definitely, I gotta finish taking down my Faraday bunker and figuring out some stuff and cleaning up my condo. So I might be doing I might do a live stream tonight or this week or something. I don't know. I'm gonna if I feel really good and I find something really important, I'll go ahead and make a video. Yeah. So if I find something that's really important or something like that, I'll go ahead and make a video. Otherwise, I'm gonna kind of be working on the Faraday bunker here and just really cleaning up my place and working on some things that I've kind of slacked off on, kind of getting my shit together. I got to get my shit together. But I definitely will. I'll be making some videos, some live streams. I think 1 month left, maybe a little bit longer. 1 month left till I get my live streams back on this channel. But guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, check out my secondary channel, Vulcan Wolverine 2. And I've been doing a better job when I watch a targeted individual's video. I like it. If I like that targeted individual and I think what they are saying is good, and I like their channel, I like all those videos, So I've been doing a much better job with that. We've got to start thinking of the like button in YouTube as a weapon. Like we sometimes I think that we as and I do this too. It didn't start out as making a YouTube channel. It was just like getting information out. I thought the information would be important enough so that I could just be doing it on my phone. But then I'm kind of compromising and trying to make it a good YouTube channel enough so that it's not just me on a phone. But we've really, with subscribing to other targeted individuals and promoting each other's information, I think sometimes we're like, okay, I'm doing my YouTube channel and I'm getting out my information. We need to be using these social media platforms as weapons to come together and get this information out and do it in an effective way and build off each other and network and really make it a flood of information getting out. We need to work on that more. I mean, I think that people are already doing it in a lot of different ways, but we can do it better. We can do it better. Yeah, if I ever did this, I don't know, I probably would have never made a YouTube channel if I wouldn't have been targeted. It just wouldn't have been a thing that I would have done. But if I did decide to oh, I'm gonna do a YouTube channel, and I want to make a YouTube channel and make awesome videos and get a bunch of subscribers, and this will be my living. Do advertisements. It probably would have been like a comic book review channel or a comic book movie review, video games. I would have just put it all into one. I might start doing a little bit of that on this channel to make it kind of fun and maybe bring in some new people. I do need to make this. I need to do a lot of stuff. So, I don't know. These social media platforms are kind of weird. It's like sometimes it's like you look at YouTube and I don't know. YouTube's just weird. It's like there's lots of great information, like lots of just very smart information and stuff like that. But then there's also like the worst information. I'm not talking about targeted individual information. I'm talking about information on every subject. It's like it runs the gamut from people like talking and you can't even understand what they're saying. And I'm not talking about targeted individuals, but just normal people out there just making these awful videos, and then like people really good production value, really good information, like documentaries on very important topics. That's why I love YouTube. It kind of you can look at in the way the censoring works. It's not as much like this now, but way back when it was a representation of kind of the population. Very smart stuff and then you got what's the guy's name? Logan Paul. So getting millions of views. PewDiePie's alright. I've watched him. I think he used to be really cool and play video games and just had a really funny, good personality. But now it's like all of the people who subscribe to him and watch him are like younger kids, like 12 and younger, or like teenagers. So he like just caters to the moronic kind of. Which, I mean, it's a job that he's working, and if he likes it and it's fun for him. Because he's pretty funny. He's a pretty funny guy. Okay, I got way off onto to babbling at the end. I needed some babbling after that article. Well, I hope you guys got something out of this. There's going to be more to come, and usually stuff that I'm going through is not going to be this philosophical and it's going to be easier to understand. I like stuff that's easy to understand and is very straightforward. That's the kind of information I like. So the end of this, I was like, you're talking in circles, man. But I love you guys. More to come. I just hope that you're getting the things done you need to get done in your life, or just surviving this. Really, that's our priority. That's our priority. Please, go to God. Let's go ahead and say a prayer towards the end. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus Christ. Dear Lord, please help all targeted individuals out there. Please make this electromagnetic transcranial stimulation device, make it successful. Make it so successful in reducing what my attackers are doing, so we can get the word out there and start getting a lot of relief for targeted individuals. Just help targeted individuals to understand there's so many defenses, and there's going to be so many things that just, that are, it's such a mystery that they work. It's such a mystery that kind of defense at that time worked. Just put that in their hearts and give them hope. Give all of us hope. Give all of us strength. If you can't take away this program immediately, right now, please give us the strength to get through it. Give us the peace that surpasses all understanding. Just help all targeted individual families out there. Just help every family in the world. Help good to start beating back some of this evil. Give us some miracles where we can create more of that homeostasis in society, a balance in society where people are free and there's not a lottery system to torture them for their whole lives. Thank you for all the good things that we have. Thank you for the intelligence that you've given us and the courage that you've given us. Just thank you so much for all the good things, our families, our friends. Thank you so much for all these guys who watch my videos and all targeted individuals out there, but especially the guys who watch my videos. They're just such beautiful, strong people. Just thank you for putting them into my life. And just give us miracles, God. Thank you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Alright, guys, let's end it on that. And I will be back soon, probably on the other channel, a live stream. So I got a month left. So if you want to see my live streams, I do put them in the thingamajiggy, the playlists on my main channel, Vulcan Wolverine. But you know, if you want to come to the live streams and know about them, hit the subscribe and the bell button on my secondary channel. All right, guys, I love y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.